Okay. Yeah, we can start now.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, good enough. Let's start. So yeah, we are live now. Okay, so today what are we discussing? Oh, okay. Relationships, right? So it's an interesting topic. So let me do a quick introduction of you, which we have done several times. But always a good time to, never a bad time to not introduce you. So Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our session where we discuss spiritual topics. The discussion is obviously, it's more like a this particular session is going to be more like a, what do you say, like a class, or more like, our guest Pratik Prabhu will be sharing his realization and his understanding, and from his experience also of, how why relationships are such an important part um, of bhakti, the of the life of devotion, because it's bhakti is a very personal thing, where we want to care for each other, because that is what pleases the Lord, when we are willing to serve one another, um, with an understanding that, we are part and parcels of Krishna. So relationships are sometimes very hard to keep up with. So like, how do we maintain them? What kind of understanding do we need to have to be able to develop and maintain healthy relationships amongst each other? That is the topic that Prabhuji will be discussing. And it'll be nice if, like, if you have questions, if you're watching, if you would like to post on the in the Facebook chat, we could also, try to have them answered by Prabhuji. So yeah, Prabhuji is a um, very prominent. Well, okay, he's a very renowned spiritualist, who is also very intellectual, and he has been giving discourses on spiritual topics from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam for a long time, and he's been enlightening us. So today we want to, like, use this time for him to help us understand about, how to develop spiritually founded relationships. So over to you, Prabhu. Yeah. Oh, I realized. Yeah. My screen just kind of, yeah, like went back with. Yeah. Over
Okay,
to you.
okay. Hare Krishna. So thank you so much for inviting me for the class, and it's always been a pleasure to share the knowledge, the understanding that I have about Krishna consciousness with all of you. Yeah, I guess that today's topic is also connected to, I think you have probably missed out the central point of today's class, which is Krishna conscious relationships, not just developing relationships or improving relationships, but it is basically Krishna centered or Krishna oriented relationships. So we'll be discussing about that, because normally in the material world also we have so many counselors, we have psychiatrists, we have people who are expert in this area of improving relationships, and they are guiding so many people across the world. So the idea is that we don't want to miss out the central point of all these relationships, which is our common father, or God, or we say Krishna in ISKCON. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Kadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So there are a few points about developing Krishna-centered relationships. As we know that in the family, so basically, see, there is uh, when we talk about developing relationships which has Krishna as the center. So what is the meaning of that? It father, in a layman's language, it is like that. So because father is actually the center of all the entire family, and he's the one. Because of him, we have siblings. Because of him, we have relatives and all. So that's why father is the central element in all of these relationships. This is the meaning of having Krishna conscious centered relationship. And the in the material world, we see that most of the relationships are based on greed, selfishness. There is no selfless love as such. I mean, our parents, they all definitely they try to love us selflessly, but to some extent, everyone is limited, and everyone has four defects also, which is tendency to commit mistake, to cheat, to be in illusion, and the fourth one is imperfect senses. So every relationship has got, we cannot escape from these four defects in all of these relationships, whether it is between parent and a son, or between siblings, or between friends, or between husband and wife. Everyone has to undergo these things. So because of these four tendencies, there are problems, there are issues, because we cannot reciprocate perfectly. And we know that no one is perfect in this material world. Everyone has some kind of vices, right? So when it comes to material relationships, we tend to focus more on our personal benefits. I mean, this is how in Kali Yuga things have been degraded. Actually, love in its pure sense is selfless, where you only think about the beloved and for his happiness. You don't think about our own happiness. True meaning of love. It is selfless love, and actually we have pure ego. So we are familiar with the word ego, which means that we ego is connected to pride. Pride of being what I am. But in real sense, the our original identity is that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So that identity is pure ego. Pure ego means we take pride that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, that he is the common father for all the living entities in this world. So we are connected to the living, to the father. All living entities are connected to the father by this common understanding, and that's how we identify ourselves as brothers and sisters. So everyone is actually our brother and sister in this material world. It's just that we have forgotten, and we don't remember, and we were connected to each other in the past previous lives also, which we don't remember in this life. So that's why the love, the bonding that is existing between the living entities in this world, it is originating, the sustenance and the origin of that love is basically from the Supreme Lord. So without his compassion and his love, no love would exist within all the living entities, right? So this is the first thing that we have to understand, first and foremost, that we are all connected to each other because there is a central object of connection. Like, for example, when you go to a lake, and you have some stones or pebbles in your hand, and you throw the stones and pebbles in different directions. So you'll see that there will be ripples and waves which will emanate from that particular spot, and all these ripples and waves, they will clash and they will collide, and they will die. They will die. So, but if you see that, if you throw all the pebbles and stone at it will expand in its original form, and it will reach the shore. Okay, so it will create a harmony. Basically, there won't be any collision, there won't be any clash, and there won't be any destruction of the waves. So all these waves, they will actually emanate and they will expand, and they will grow, right? So similarly, when you have a center object, and when you hit at it, then everyone grows individually. Everyone grows. Like another example is that you water the root of the tree. We know that we cannot water the individual leaves, branches, the fruits and the flowers. Then, we if we do that, then everyone, each and everything will die. It will wither away after some time. But if we pour water on the root of the tree, then everything will be nourished simultaneously, and they will grow. Okay. So similarly in the human body also, we know that we have to feed the stomach. We cannot feed the hand or the leg or the or the eyes or the nose. The main purpose of the stomach is to digest food. So that's why we actually uh, feed our stomach, and that's how all the parts of the body, they will function in its best possible form. So similarly, when we forget the root, when we forget the center of our loving relationships, when we forget God, then the relationships can exist for a particular period of time, and we can also have so-called selfless love amongst each other. But it is not completely selfless, because we are connected to the body more, and we understand that we are not the body with a spirit soul, and we are identifying with this particular lifetime only. We are not identifying or recognizing that there is another lifetime waiting for us, and we are not thinking about the karma of. Okay, but if we do not understand what is the meaning of service, what is dharma, then the apparent so-called service will not take us, will not be selfless, because you are trying to help someone, but the person, even if he receives your help, it's not necessary that in the future or in the next life he will suffer. He will not suffer. He may suffer also, because you have not understood what is the true meaning of dharma, how dharma is practiced in this material world. And because without following dharma, you cannot expect to enjoy the material world. You cannot expect to be happy in the material world. You have to suffer your consequences. So even if you consider only one lifetime, we can, and even if you are selfless in this one lifetime, still we need to understand one principle, that we have to help the individual on an eternal platform and not just on a temporary platform. So this eternal help, which is selfless love, is and what is that eternal thing that you can offer to all the living entities? It is only one thing, because anyways the body is going to die, it is going to wither away, and so to whom are you going to provide help eternally? And that eternal part of the body is the soul, right? So mama vamsha jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and that's how they are sanatan, the soul is. And then Krishna also says that uh, the soul is eternal, the atma is eternal, and the body is actually temporary. So whatever help you want to provide to the person, so person, you do not say that, okay, I am this hand, I am this face, I am this nose. You say that, the entire body, you say that, okay, I am like, whatever your name is, you say like that. But then again, the actually manifested by the soul. So basically you are the soul, and if you want to help someone, you have to help the soul of that person. You have to help the soul, means there has to be eternal help, and the soul can be benefited eternally only by connecting it with God. So like there are three types of people who can help us. One, like if there is a person, if there is a child who is actually lost, and he's searching for his father, so he come across three categories of people who try to help him. The first category actually does not help him. There is no help. You will ignore or reject him. The second person he meets, so he will offer some kind of temporary help to the person. Like he will offer some fruits, flowers, I mean fruits or vegetables, some kind of food to the child, or some kind of shelter he will give to the child by making a provision for temporary arrangement to stay 1 or 2 days, like that. But later on, he will not be able to maintain him, so he will also move away. And so this is the second category of person. And the third category of person is the one who is actually going to connect the child with his father. So he will make sure that uh, until unless he does not find his father, he will keep helping him. So this is the third type of person, is actually the ultimate help, because what he's doing is connecting the child to his father, and the father being responsible, he will take care of the child needs for the entire lifetime. Okay, generally a father will take care of the child. So that is selfless love. So similarly, if you extend this analogy on an eternal time scale, then it is the Supreme Lord only who is actually going to exist, and he's the only one who is going to maintain all of us. for eternity. So that's why whenever we talk about relationships, obviously the key important element of a relationship to sustain is other person as it is. Okay, so these are the two essential elements of any relationship in the material world. All the spiritual, in bhakti also, it's not that devotees have taken up to Krishna consciousness or bhakti, it means they have become transcendental. No, we are all sadhakas, we are struggling, and we have a lot of anarthas, we have a lot of vices, we are trying to overcome them, and simultaneously we are also trying to develop relationship with people. So a lot of vices will come out when we are dealing with people. And apart from understanding the material elements of a relationship, what are the key and essential points to have a proper relationship with the person? Especially for devotees. Now, this class is meant for devotees who are practicing bhakti. So we are talking about developing relationships with Krishna as the center. So we are focusing on that, and that means if you forget, so one of the reasons that you have actually got together, like in a marriage relationship, or whether it is whichever friendship also in devotee community, the reason you have actually got friends in Krishna consciousness is because there is a center point. That center point is Krishna, Guru and Krishna. And you have joined ISKCON, you have got connected to ISKCON, so obviously you will be exposed to a community of people around you, and that's how you meet people and you make friendship with them. Now, the entire reason the friendship is based, or the relationship is based with the person, is because of having Krishna in the center. That's the purpose. So the idea is that we all want to advance in spiritual life, and we want to serve the Lord selflessly, or to serve devotees selflessly also. So using the same habits in our material life, we also try to it is also reflected in our bhakti, in our relationships with amongst the devotees. Unfortunately, this is a very it's a fact, but it needs to be somehow resolved, and it has to be addressed also, because of not keeping Krishna in the center, many problems are also happening amongst devotees. And like Radhanath Maharaj always says that whenever we are having relationship with devotees, and we also have some expectations. So many times our expectations are not fulfilled, and yeah, the most important element is that, along with expectation, is that we have difference of opinions also, because everyone is an individual, and there is a lot of variety, unlimited variety in bhakti. Krishna is Akhil Rasamrita. He is the one who is actually, who wants unlimited relationship with devotees, because he wants to exchange unlimited rasas with the devotees. So even though there are 5 rasas that we have with Krishna in the spiritual world, but amongst that 5 rasas also, there is unlimited variety. Okay, and in order to have that unlimited, see, now Krishna is unlimited, so obviously he wants unlimited reciprocation also. That's why everyone is an individual. So there will be different opinion, there will be expectations also. So, many times we feel that the devotees must do like this, the way we want to, but we have to understand that we are a different personality, and they have their own ways to serve the Lord. So that consideration has to be there about difference of opinions. And Maharaj says that whenever there's a difference of opinion, we have to always see the higher purpose, and we have to move forward. So we have to cooperate. Okay, and we may disagree also with other devotees, but it should be done very respectfully. With we may not be able to appreciate it, but at least it should be done respectfully, at least keeping in mind that the person is also a devotee and he wants to serve the Lord in a particular way. So we cannot criticize that devotee. And so as long as it is actually it is sanctioned, it is authorized by the devotees, the senior devotees in ISKCON. And but if you are not comfortable with that particular type of mood or that particular type of behavior, then at least we have to respect the devotees. We have to respect from a distance. So now, so basically, I wanted to address this particular topic. I would like to extend in all forms of relationship, whether it is husband, wife, or friendship, or yeah, whatever relations we have. So I would like to address and focus on a particular issues that actually are coming along in relationship between devotees. And especially what we have seen is, the more we become familiar with the devotees, the more we also take them for granted, and the more familiarity breeds contempt. So this is um, a very critical issue of familiarity. So if this familiarity can also extend with the guru, because a guru is, the guru can become familiar with the disciple, because the guru is examples also during Prabhupada's time. And I do remember Mahatma Prabhu was sharing in the Prabhupada memory series that one of Prabhupada disciples, I don't remember the name, but he got so close to Prabhupada and he started thinking that he's an ordinary person. And immediately, he actually had fallen down later on, because he thought that Prabhupada was an ordinary person. And Prabhupada actually gave him chance also. He said that you stay with me. You always stay with me. I will maintain you. You stay in my association. But somehow it drifted off. So Mahatma Prabhu was saying that now we can actually realize how much we can also advance in spiritual life by staying away from the guru and by serving his instructions. So it is not necessary that you have to stay near him. If you have responsibilities, if you have some kind of service, then yeah, then we understand, like we can actually serve the spiritual master intimately by having his Vapo association. But if he's not available, then we can always serve with instructions. And one more point is, that you cannot serve the spiritual master unless you are like him, which means that if you want to associate with fire, then you have to be like fire. And if you're not fire, then you will be burned off. That's the principle. So basically, certain level of maturity and understanding has to be developed in the disciple before serving the spiritual master very closely. So if the spiritual master has trained you and he knows you well, then it is, I think, easier to serve him. But if he does not know you, you have a distance with him, and suddenly you start serving the spiritual master. It also depends on your nature. It also depends on how you respond to people, how much you are able to take criticism, because you associate with the spiritual master closely. But if you cannot take criticism, then you will start reacting to it, and you will react in a negative way that will be detrimental to your spiritual life. So it is better to stay away from the guru, because some devotees are in the mode of goodness, some are in the mode of passion, some in the mode of ignorance. And if you are passionate, then obviously it's better to stay away as long as you're purified. And if you are in the mode of goodness, then maybe it's a good thing if you can get the association of spiritual master. But in any case, what we can do is, instead of jumping directly to some Uttamadhikari, we can try with the devotees who are more advanced than you, who are Madhyama, or probably more advanced than your spiritual status. Okay. So gradually we can go ahead. And if you are able to serve them properly, and so see, these Madhyama devotees, or these devotees who are more advanced than you, they are very practical also, and they are very accommodative also. Whereas if you consider Uttamadhikari, the level of their the level of service that they would demand, that will be very difficult, because their expectations are very high. and they want certain things to be done in a certain way. And if you're not ready for it, then obviously you have to pay the price. So it's better to serve some intermediate devotees, because they will accommodate us also, and they will give us practical guidance also. And they may also be able to fulfill some of the requirements that we have, right? So by serving them, gradually we become purified, and then we can actually start serving the spiritual master if he is very advanced, or Uttamadhikari. So a Kanishta, until the Uttamadhikari wants to give the Kanishta a chance to serve, then it's a different thing. But otherwise, a Kanishta is actually not the right person to actually serve Uttamadhikari. Certain level of maturity and advancement in spiritual life is required. Certain amount of knowledge is required. Certain amount of experience is also required to serve Uttamadhikaris. So that can be done by Madhyamas who are quite advanced. So this is about a guru-disciple relationship. We have to always see. And now, see, it is not necessary that the guru has to be a Diksha Guru only, or he has to be a sannyasi in order for us to get familiar. So there are gurus who have been guiding us. There are mentors. We have our spiritual mentors, guides, and we have got their association since a long time. So we have to make sure that we also don't take them for granted. And the respect is always there for the gurus. So the dealing should not become ordinary. We have to have that conviction that even if you have your Siksha Gurus, if the Siksha Gurus may be Madhyamas, or they may be a bit advanced than you also, but still the conviction should be there that okay, just because they help me, or they are helping me, and they are representatives of my Guru Maharaj, so they are not ordinary. That conviction one must have. Otherwise, there is a chance that we may start committing offenses to the devotees, and gradually that offense can also lead up to offense to the Diksha Guru, and ultimately to the Lord. So this is a transition, it's a beginning point. I mean, there are so many lessons from Gaur Leela. We can learn how a seed of offense actually can fructify and later become a mad elephant also, that can completely devour our bhakti. So we relationship is going, and how much we are able to properly deal with the Vaishnavas, especially our Gurujan. So this is the thing. And now, obviously, another consideration is that we can't even see the relationship as a material relationship, because the entire central point is Krishna consciousness. So basically, the Guru is instructing about us to advance in Krishna bhakti. And similarly, the disciple also, he cannot go and ask, even if he's become familiar with the Guru, he cannot take it for granted, and he cannot take it as a special consideration that okay, he has the privilege to go and ask anything to the Guru. I mean, uh, devotees, they may have that liberty also, because we are in the material world, we are dealing with many challenges also. So it is all right if the Guru is instructing us in material things also, and we are asking the Guru. But we have to remember one thing, that sadhana is the key in the relationship. Your connection with the Guru is established by how much you are getting taste in Krishna consciousness. So that is the central element. That is the key point. If you miss out the key point, then the relationship will actually become material. So, and then gradually the Guru will also actually lose interest to deal with us. So this has to be taken very seriously. We cannot replace Krishna conscious relationship with material relationships. That we have to keep in mind. Okay, so now this is regarding Guru and disciple. And yeah, so now what we see, let's talk about some practical relationships. We now will be focusing on relationships where we are connected to devotee. If they are our parents, or they are our relatives, or like dealing with husband and wife. So how should we base our relationship with them? Now this is actually the most difficult part, because see, with guru, obviously you know that the purpose of your guru, the existing, the reason the relationship is existing with the guru is because the guru's main role is to impart knowledge about Krishna, and we also approach the guru with that particular mindset. That is quite natural for a guru disciple relationship. But now the problem comes when we are having relationship with devotees, in any of these categories, whether as a husband, as a wife, as a friend, as a parent, as a son. In all these relationships, how can we actually deal with each other? So, this is actually so complex. I mean, it can get so complex because let's say in your family you have all the devotees. Okay. But the issue is that not everyone is at the same level of advancement. And it is possible that even if they are on the same level of advancement, but still they are probably in a Kanishta category. And also it is possible that some of them may be Madhyama, some of them may be Kanishta. So it becomes a very difficult task to basically uplift them, because in a relationship like this, a very intimate relationship, we don't take the person as so seriously, and we forget the purpose of our relationship also. It is so easy to forget that. So basically, when you have a relationship in a husband-wife relationship, the idea is that maximum time we should spend together glorifying the Lord, or sharing. I think the consciousness. So, if we are not able to invest that much time in that relationship, especially about glorifying the Lord, like for example, in terms of having some kirtan together, or worshiping the deities together, or reading scriptures together, or sharing Krishna consciousness with each other. If we are not having this exchange, then there is a lot of chance that the relationship can turn out to be material. And even though one's own personal sadhana can also be strong, one may be personally doing sadhana. The husband and wife they have their own individual sadhanas. But unless and until there is a common, uh, you can say, a common service, or a common focus, like worshipping the deities together, something has to be there together. Like certain common activity should be there. If it is not there, then there are chances that the relationship will become material with time, because Krishna is not in the center. And especially when you are also dealing with devotees, if you are with devotees doing job together, or if you are with devotees doing business together, especially in the family also, then also there is a risk that we may be inviting trouble, because if the element of sharing is not there, then there are a lot of chances. So what is the consequence of a relationship if Krishna is not repeatedly there, in the picture? Which means that at least some part of the day, at least some portion of the day, we have to worship them together. Important. So unnecessarily, what will happen if we are not having this element? Then there will be a lot of anxiety, and there will be a lot of focus on responsibilities. So instead of, see, the entire idea of being responsible in a family life, or in any ashram, is to make advancement in spiritual life, or to set a goal. So even if you are taking the responsibility as a service to the Lord, but then you forget the Lord, you forget that you are not able to remember the Lord. I mean, you are not able to remember the Lord, you are not able to render service to the Lord together. Then what is the purpose of that family life? It all becomes individual sadhana. And I will tell you one thing, that individual sadhana cannot help you in Kali Yuga. You may chant extra rounds. So basically, see, a devotee may focus on increasing the quantity, but that will not have any effect or influence on its quality. Okay, the quality can only come, it will only manifest when there is a desire, an attempt um, to practice all these Vaishnava qualities, to basically to follow the instructions of the devotees, to follow the instructions of Guru, great sages. Unless and until we have the desire to follow the instructions and to be mindful of our dealings with the devotees, even the so-called quantity is not going to help us in our individual sadhana. So the behavior of a devotee is actually the most important factor. Advanced devotees, they are seeking for transformation, and neophyte devotees, they are seeking for quantity. This is a fact. So, I mean, whatever Srila Prabhupada has given to us, even if a devotee is chanting 16 is sufficient for this lifetime. And the most essential element in all these activities, in all the devotional activity or our responsibility, is basically quality. There is a lot of advancement when we start focusing on the quality rather than the quantity. So quantity will come naturally. It will. It's not so tough to increase the quantity of a certain devotional activity, but to actually enhance our quality, we must have proper relationship with the devotees. That means that we have to be, even though we are familiar, we are very intimate to a particular person in our family, but if we are not respectful, then the relationship is, it will not be a Krishna conscious relationship if you are not respectful to the person or the devotee. And for that to happen, so see, while dealing with devotees, there are a lot of chances that we may commit mistakes, and we may take certain decisions, which may not be which may not be exactly the way it should have been. Okay, but a part of Krishna consciousness principle is that we reflect, we introspect on our mistakes, and then we admit it, we share it with others, and do it in a very respectful way. So unless and until we work on this, it's not possible that our chanting will be effective. It is obvious, because to inspire anyone. When people are seeing, when people are seeing from outside, they are focusing on devotees as transformers, which means that they want to see, whether the devotees, they are transformed or not. So they know a particular person, and after they see that they are connected to ISKCON, they want to see the transition in the person, which means that, if a person is getting angry because of their nature, so how much anger has been subsided in their nature, how much good qualities have developed in them. People, they want to see this from outside. If you fight, if you become angry, if you are doing this regularly, and even if your sadhana is strong, do you think any person would actually appreciate that? They will think that this person has come to Krishna consciousness, but he is always fighting with people. So it is not going to have any effect on the person who is seeing from outside. And that's why it is so important that transformation is a very essential element of Krishna consciousness. The more we focus on transformation, the more we'll actually be able to advance also in spiritual life, not just the quantity. So there may be devotees who are increasing their quantities in terms of worshipping the deities. They increase the time of worship. They increase chanting number of rounds. They may be able to increase reading, hearing, but all these things are useless unless and until there is a implementation of that. So a person can hear one syllable or one word, and he can implement it immediately. So that person, that devotee, can make more advancement than all the others, because people can keep hearing for lifetimes. Commit offenses, then it will be a repeating process. You'll not be able to be, you'll not be delivered. Whereas Mahaprabhu says that one syllable, one pure syllable of the holy name can actually deliver you at the feet of the Lord. So similarly, whenever you are doing any devotional activity, if you are committing offenses, even though the quantity is great, you can still, your sadhana and bhakti will have no effect as such. Okay, so everything is oriented towards how we behave with each other. Ultimately, like how much transformation we have made through the spiritual practices, and people want to see that. And as devotees also, we also would like, I mean, just imagine if, tomorrow I become very humble, very tolerant, very calm, very peaceful, then I also will be the, I will actually love it. I will the person to love it the most. uh, Forget about others, but myself, I will be loving that entire process of getting transformed by by following the spiritual practices. So this is so important. And what is happening is, um, so there are a couple of things that people they tend to ignore or avoid, and they think that this is the most important element of bhakti. What they do is, they have their own individual natures, and uh, they are not submitting themselves to senior devotees. They are not consulting senior devotees. And even in the culture of work, now there are devotees who take responsibilities for the family life. But how are they taking the responsibility? How is the quality of that responsibility? If you are people, if you are balancing by disturbing people, by annoying them, by spoiling relationships, then what kind of balancing is that? Material and spiritual life. So better, we have to focus on first thing, the first and foremost thing, the immediate effect. So basically, people, they tend to, sometimes they get absorbed in the material world while working. They tend to forget their main responsibility, the main goal. They think that, okay, we are doing it for Krishna, but then obviously how much we are. Now any person who is thinking that we are working for Krishna, then the question is that the result is going to be shown. If you are, okay, you are thinking like that, and you are increasing your responsibilities of work, but then how much you are able to contribute to Krishna, that is the direct result of your consciousness. So if you tell people that, okay, this is a good way to actually serve the Lord, and I would like to earn money and donate, but then if you do not donate that much amount, whatever is recommended, then that kind of responsibility is a, it's a show responsibility. So we have to always introspect that whatever responsibility I'm taking, is that for my own sense gratification or for the service of the Lord. Okay, so now what happens is, if you forget the main goal of the responsibility, then unnecessarily you will start taking anxiety. You will start inviting anxiety, because Krishna is not in the center, and you are not discussing about Krishna. You are not sharing about Krishna consciousness. So, and what I realize is that it is, I guess, the most important element for any devotee. Important elements for any devotee in family life, because there is a tendency of being independent, especially in the Grihastha ashram. And in Grihastha ashram, we can always increase our standards of bhakti. We may be able to increase number of rounds, we may be able to increase deity worship and all that. But the problem is that, and if we do not take association of devotees timely, regularly, And if we do not share Krishna consciousness, then we are not sharing our problems with them. So there is no one to actually, like, if you want to know whether you are pure or not, or whether you are advancing, there is no one to check that. So how do we know whether we are advancing in spiritual life or whether we are just following our own whimsical mind? So this is a problem. So you may be, obviously, quantity is also a result of our taste in bhakti, but that quantity has to come after satisfying devotees, after their blessings. We may be able to increase the quantity, but if we do not have their blessings, if they want us to correct in certain ways, then we have to be ready for that also. So I guess it is very important that we have to have friends in Krishna consciousness, or even amongst family members, we have to share Krishna consciousness. And just by speaking with devotees, we can actually also make a judgment how much they are advanced in spiritual life, because only a neophyte devotees, they will glorify themselves, and advanced Vaishnavas, they will be glorifying other devotees, and they will present themselves as a very fallen devotee. So all these are characteristics by which actually we can understand how a devotee is advancing. And to associate with devotees, and to serve under the guidance of devotees. I think this is the most important element of knowing how much we are advancing in spiritual life. Rest of other things can follow, like increasing the chanting, increasing reading, increasing hearing, different types of sadhana. These are all, these can be done independently also. It's not necessary that we have to go to the temple. I mean, if you can go to the temple and doing the associated devotees, that is the best thing. But if you're not able to do it, then um, yeah, in the house you become independent, you become your own master, and that's why there is a risk of thinking that we are making advancement by increasing the quantity. So another consequence of that kind of approach is that we start focusing on external services also many times. Like, like for example, being a grihastha, if we have money, then we start helping people, helping devotees, start funding projects, start helping, uh, you know, in any area of services, we can actually help by donating. So then what happens is, once you start donating, then the devotees who are receiving your donation, the temple which is receiving your donation, they start becoming, they start taking a lower position, and they start respecting you, they start treating you nicely, and they will also offer you many wonderful things like Mahaprasadam, Mahaprasad, or Mahagarland, or some kind of reservation they will also offer to you, because you are financing the projects and all that. So basically, then obviously the ulterior motive becomes to get name and fame or recognition in spiritual life. Now, this is a very strong tendency in the material world. We all want name and fame, and when we come to spiritual life, the same thing continues in our consciousness. So what happens is, if you do not have proper association, regular association, especially of senior Vaishnavas, then you start thinking that, okay, you are making advancement, and so many devotees, they are praising you, they are respecting you, and the Lord is also honoring you by offering you so many items through the devotees. So then you start feeling that, okay, I'm advancing in spiritual life. But even if you are doing these kind of external services, internally, if you are not doing sadhana properly, if you are not associating with devotees properly, then there is a there is a very serious thing which is happening, and you are not able to realize that there is a lack of something, and that lack is basically the lack of proper consciousness, the lack of um, lack of trying to submit ourselves to someone. So this is so important in spiritual life. This is the most uh, the foremost principle of spiritual life, that we try to submit ourselves and we serve accordingly. Not that we always try to serve according to our independence. Yeah. So basically, in a family, if the family is not coming together and discussing about Krishna Katha, if they are not interested, now this is, it seems to be weird by saying that if they are not interested, but it's a fact also. Uh, Devotees, they are not so much eager and interested to hear about Krishna. And whenever there is a that among in a family also, we may not be interested so much. We may have time constraints, and we are more interested in material activities. We are more interested in having material connections, material relationships. So we may spend time there, but we may not have so much interest in or taste in speaking about Krishna consciousness. Okay. So I mean, that's why devotees may balance things, but how they balance, that is most important. If they are not respectful to their family members, if they deal them in a condescending way, then obviously that is not the right approach. That means that they are thinking that they are the masters, whereas the mood is that we are always the servant of others. So and then obviously there is the sharing of responsibility also. So obviously we do not say that, okay, only sadhana, only sharing Krishna consciousness is the most important element. Of course, that is the root. That is the root of Krishna conscious relationship. But it does not mean that the family members, in the name of that, they avoid responsibility. So everyone has a responsibility in that particular ashram, and they have to perform that responsibility. So if you avoid that, then also you are not performing proper service to the Lord. So being responsible at a particular point of time in the ashram is also service to the Lord. So it is not different from the Lord. Okay. Just in the name of being Krishna consciousness or increasing sadhana or increasing taste for it, you actually pass your responsibility to others. That is actually not a service. That is a disservice to the Lord. So the Lord wants every devotee to become responsible, and that's why Prabhupada also, he had the idea of having the temples an environment where temples are dependent on each other, because he knew that if the temples are dependent, some place the devotees are more responsible, some places the devotees won't be responsible. So those who are not responsible, they will always depend on those who are responsible, and that's how they will become lazy, right? So we don't have we don't want lazy devotees. We want active and responsible devotees, whichever ashram they are in, and they have to take that responsibility. So we cannot pass on the responsibility to others, and whatever is our responsibility, we have to make sure that we do it. So there has to be a mutual understanding and sharing of responsibilities in family life, and we cannot escape from that. And if we do that, then obviously we are actually it's a disservice to the Lord. So yeah, responsibility is the thing, is one of the factors, and coming together and sharing Krishna consciousness is the root of that relationship. So now what happens is that, like if we not do this, then we'll be hearing a lot of material sound from outside. We are in contact with the material world, and we are moving in the material world. We come across so many people, so we'll keep hearing from them repeatedly, and we are influenced by the vibration of the sound in the material world. That's why we need to be connected to the spiritual sound vibration as much as possible, right? So yeah, so basically we and then obviously whatever, even if we are working, then we must have a goal also. The goal of any devotee, any sincere devotee, is basically he wants to advance his spiritual life. So even if we are taking responsibility in our material field, we have to have a goal for that. It does not mean just that, just we only keep working on throughout the day and throughout years and through the entire life. No, that is not the goal. Duties as soon as possible, so that we can engage more time in sadhana and seva. Okay. And if your work is your main service, then you can do it. But then obviously you have to engage that work in the service of the Lord. Um, a great percentage you have to engage in the service of Lord. Then you can do it. Otherwise, if you are just working and spending that money for your own sense gratification, then obviously it is not justified. So we have to have a particular goal, clear goal, what services we would like to take up, which is our main service for the Lord. And then if that service is different from the work, then we have to stop work at some point of time. So we have to plan everything in such a way that after 10 years, 20 years, we'll be able to save a lot of money, and then we'll be able to retire and then fully devote ourselves in a particular service that we are most inclined, or which is most effective service for us. Yeah. So these are some of the points, some of the very important points in a relationship, where we have to make each other remember Krishna, discuss about him, share about him, glorify the Lord, have kirtan together, have deity worship together, have reading together, have hearing together. All these are different ways to, if these elements are missing, then I think it's very difficult to advance, and there will be friction in the house, because all the devotees in the family, they are not at equal level. And obviously, one thing also we have to remember, that there may be advanced devotee, there may be madhyama, or there may be kanishta. There will be different types of devotees, but we have to be compassionate to the devotees who are less advanced than us, which means that we can guide them from our own example. We don't have to instruct them necessarily. It all depends on the relationship, but we have to guide in such a way, or we should not guide them. If the situation wants that we should not guide them. But one thing we have to always remember, that there has to be a limit for everything. There has to be a line of respect, and we should not cross that beyond. We should not cross beyond that line. So that respect line has to be there. Somehow, if you are a senior, and if in one of your family members, he's a junior, then don't give so much advice or instruction that he will start disrespecting you. That we have to always remember. So unnecessarily from your end, you should not try to instruct or advise unless the person is willing to follow that, unless he wants to know certain things, right? That we have to. So because the relationship is intimate, there are less chances that a person will actually take guidance from you. But generally, the guidance will mostly come from Gurujan, or from the friends. But if the person has respect for you as a guide, then yeah, you can definitely guide. And it also depends on how much you are guiding, what kind of advices you are giving, how you are instructing. So there are responsibilities of the senior, and there are some responsibilities of the junior. Juniors should not cross the line, and they should not take things for granted. So they have to respect, and the senior should behave in such a way that respect is commanded, not demanded. In that way, we have to act in family. So we cannot try to artificially push someone in spiritual life. So if a junior is not able to follow certain things, and we are able to do excellently in that area, we should have patience, we should have tolerance, and we should encourage them. We should not criticize, or there are different ways to connect the junior. It's not necessary we have to do that. We have to play that role. Some other can also. Our end, we should make sure that the juniors are not disturbed, and similarly, the juniors from their end, they should not disrespect, okay, the seniors. So these are very crucial points in a relationship, and obviously, in the entire family, there has to be a mood of being a servant, which means that yes, I am willing to be corrected for my misdeeds. I am willing to be corrected for my lower natures. Yeah, I admit that I have made a mistake. If the devotee is sincere, he will do all these things. If he is not sincere, he will always keep blaming others. Now, there is a very important conversation that I just read in Giriraj Maharaj's book, in the Jew book. I will build you a temple. And obviously there was the entire episode of how Mr. Nair was actually harassing Prabhupada and all the devotees. And later on, when after he died, there were some local figures who were trying to harass the devotees. So there was one Mr. Matre who was also threatening the devotees, and especially he also tried to threaten Mr. Sethi. And Mr. Sethi, being, like he has a Kshatriya spirit. So, Mr. Matre told him that, okay, if you do not leave this place, then we'll be calling hundreds of gundas and we'll demolish the temple tonight. And so Mr. Shetty took it as a challenge and immediately asked his son to get a revolver and a rifle. And then he told him that this revolver and rifle, it has got 250 bullets. So if you have guts, then call 251 people. Spirit of Seti Prabhu, and he was glorifying him for this. And then he was also telling devotees that we should not tolerate injustice. Unnecessarily injustice cannot be tolerated by any devotees. So we have to take action. Now, one way Prabhupada said this, but in another context, in the Bhagavatam purport, in the context of Parikshit Maharaj getting crushed by Shringi Rishi. So, in that particular context, Prabhupada says that a devotee has to be tolerant and they have to accept it as their karma. Whatever they are facing, they have to accept it as a karma. So what does it mean? Now, this means that, yeah, we try from our end to not undergo any kind of injustice. We try to react, okay? But ultimately, if we are not able to do anything about the situation, then we accept it. And then we accept it as our karma. We don't get absorbed in it so that it will actually affect and disturb our sadhana and seva, right? So in the long run, this principle has to be applied that, yes, it is my own karma and somehow I have to accept that. But in the short term, if we are able to get out of that injustice and justify things, then we can do it. So this is the meaning. So yeah, so in a relationship also, this issue will come up many times. It's a very frequent issue because what we are trying to do is we are trying to prove each other right in many circumstances. I mean, I think this is one of the most important reasons why we actually fight with each other, is that we want to prove our point. We want to establish that we are right. So, in one particular context, Maharaj said that, Radhanath Maharaj said that it's more important to be, it's more important to admit defeat rather than to be right. So the higher principle is to basically accept defeat. How is going to actually make a difference in your relationship? So it's better that we accept certain things, okay, and we don't keep it in our mind for a longer period of time. We try to justify things, but then ultimately, if it is not getting justified, then we just leave it to Krishna for the time to come. So yeah, so and then again, this is the time when sadhana will actually play a very important role. When you have a spouse, a devotee, as a devotee, and you may have a couple of fights, and you may prove your point, she may prove your point, prove her point. But when sadhana means that regularly hearing and regularly listening, reading and listening. So when you do that, many times the Lord will arrange in such a way that you come across certain statements by Srila Prabhupada, by Guru, or by Vaishnavas, that immediately it will hit you, and you may be able to realize that you are at fault, or you should have done, or you should have dealt in a very respectful way or in a different way. So this is the advantage of getting regular association of books and of devotees through their hearing. And obviously the best type of association is basically to reveal your mind to them personally, to share Krishna consciousness and to reveal your minds to them personally. So Rup Goswami also has given most essential principles of community building or devotee relationship by saying that devotees can exchange in three different ways: by revealing their mind in confidence by exchanging prasadam and by exchanging gifts. So these are all different ways how we can actually deal with devotees. But yeah, being respectful is actually the most important. Otherwise, we'll always try to lord it over other devotees and think that we are the masters. And the way to resolve is to always have Krishna conscious discussions as much as possible, and to associate with devotees regularly. These are the most important elements. Yeah. So any questions or any comments? Yeah, Aritra, you have any comments or questions? Okay. Yeah, the question is that is it important to read regularly or hear regularly if we are not having so much time? And what if we are only chanting 16 rounds every day, and yeah, we are not able to do much. What I feel is that hearing and reading are the most essential elements, Shravanam and Kirtanam. So actually, the beginning of spiritual life is because of hearing. So Shravanam is actually the beginning of spiritual life. And unless and until you hear sufficiently, you cannot make advancement. Even the chanting, actually, you can experiment this. What you can do is, if you just keep chanting without hearing, let's say you have not heard any class till now, not even a single class. I mean, maybe which is actually quite strange, because at least you have got introduced to Srila Prabhupada's books, and that's how you have got to know about the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. You have heard from devotees certain things. It's not that you have started chanting randomly. Okay, even if you started chanting randomly the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you are still not aware what is the meaning of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra and what is the goal of this Mahamantra. Why I am chanting this mantra. So you may feel that, okay, I'm chanting for peace, for some kind of satisfaction, happiness, but you may not be aware of the meaning of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the process of how to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? So you have to get the knowledge from someone. Now that is the difference between you know pure chanting and chanting with offenses. Shuddhanam is the chanting of the name with knowledge that you are part and parcel of Supreme Lord, and with Samban Gyan, basically, that you are a servant of the Lord, and then you are supposed to cultivate a relationship with the Lord, and you are supposed to serve the Lord. So all these things are knowledge required in order to connect with the Lord. That's why it is Samban. Heard about Krishna's pastimes, if you have not heard about the Siddhant of his pastimes, how will you be able to justify? There are certain pastimes of the Lord which are quite controversial and which also raises a lot of doubts and questions in our mind. So unless and until you resolve these questions, you cannot chant effectively. Plus, even if you chant the holy name, unless and until you are pure, it will be a sound vibration. It will not lead to Rupa, Guna, and Leela. So you can only get the revelation of the holy name by hearing from a pure devotee, from the devotees who are coming in parampara, and by receiving knowledge from them. So yeah, because the thing is that we are sadhakas, we are sadhana siddhas, and we tend to commit mistakes, we tend to commit offenses in the path, in the process. So that's why we require knowledge, and once we get the knowledge, we start getting free from the offenses. And the initial stage of chanting is that we have to practice focusing or concentrating on the sound vibration of the holy name. Now, when we do that, it also has to lead us to some kind of dynamic relationship with the Lord. And for that to happen, we must at least be able to visualize the form of the Lord, or at least that form should be steady in our minds when we are chanting the holy name. And if we are not having that vision or the form, then our mind is diverted in different areas, material areas, or different even get immersed in Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. And so Nam will actually lead to Rupa, the form of the Lord, and then Rupa, obviously it has to reveal the qualities of the Lord. And the qualities of the Lord will automatically lead one to the pastimes of the Lord. So when you hear about the pastimes of Lord, when you chant the holy name, it will definitely help your chanting. You will be able to focus more clearly on your chanting with attention. So attentive chanting is actually the most important element. And in order to chant attentively, see, we are not able to chant 24 hours a day. We are only chanting 2 hours a day. And then what are we remembering in those 2 hours? Whatever we are doing in the next 22 hours. And whatever we are doing in the 22 hours, that will automatically reflect in our chanting. So it means that apart from chanting of 2 hours, we need to also cultivate some spiritual vibration, sound vibration, or some form of devotional activity that will help us to actually chant the holy name. Okay. And that's why regular hearing, plus in order to also understand the science of Krishna consciousness, which is very important, you must hear. Like for example, the Bhakti Samrit Sindhu is explaining a very clear systematically process of the Krishna consciousness movement, how it is working, what is the science behind it. So if you do not know these things, if you're not aware of these things, then you cannot expect that you can chant purely. You will always be distracted. So in order to chant attentively, purely, you require the help of devotees, you require the help of scriptures, you require the help of hearing, require the help of deity worship also. Now, deity worship is an excellent way to actually remember the Lord, the form of the Lord. So someone who is actually worshipping the deity, they can, and obviously it has to be done for a longer period of time. Then finally, Dham was is filled with potency of the Lord's, um, pastimes and devotees, and is the dust of his feet. So if we take advantage of these processes, then it will all help in our chanting. As Prabhupada said that 99% of our chanting, 99% of our progress in spiritual life depends on chanting. Okay. But in order to achieve that 99% progress, we have to actually incorporate all the limbs of bhakti so that we can become purified and we can chant the holy name purely. Yeah. So that's why even if you chant your 16 rounds, but if you are not able to hear, read, and associate with devotees, it will become very mechanical process, and that will hamper your relationship also. So it is very important that we hear and read regularly and best possible in the association of our devotees or our spouse or our family members. That will be the best thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Aritra, are you there?